Hey folks, Segasonicfan here, and today I'm going to be fixing this infrared camera, the HT18, which was gifted to me by a very dear, very good friend of mine, and he said that the USB port was broken. Obviously, this kind of stuff happens a lot with electronics. Let's go ahead and plug it in so I can show how it's acting up. It's got a little removable rubber cover on the side. Go ahead and put the USB in, and it's charging the battery. I'll go ahead and start it up. It does have kind of a splash screen and some loading time, which is interesting. Some advanced tech here, I guess. I really like this thing. I actually have one of the FLIRs, but I think this is quite a bit better. And I'm always a huge fan of standalone firmware. And but this thing is the USB port's really finicky because now it's like working. Oh, there it goes. You'll see now it's no longer charging. All I did was wiggle it. So yeah, USB port's got some issues, but it's a cool piece of tech. Put my hand there, and you can see it's picking up the warmth through the gloves. And it actually changes the color spectrum based on what's on the screen, which I think is a pretty cool, smart feature. Really nice menu, really simple to select stuff. Good angle, screen. I mean, you really can't ask for more than what this kind of packs. I think it's pretty nice. My only complaint, which is really a minor one, is just that the plastic is a little flimsy, a little cheap. But yeah, it's otherwise quite good. So let's go ahead and try fixing this. And I've already taken off the battery cover, which just pulls out and up. It's a little bit of a push you have to do to get it out, but you can do it. And it's got a nice, you don't want to tug on this too hard, but it's got a nice little JST connector. I believe this is an SH, a JST SH-4 connector, which is the 1mm pitch connectors. Nice, cute little tiny connectors. And the thing that you need to know if you're going to repair one of these is how to get to the secret hidden screws. Secret hidden screws, you say? They are under the screen. And it took me a minute to figure it out. But that kind of stuff is not too uncommon with electronics. So I'm going to go ahead and first take out the two behind the battery here. If you have the means, I highly recommend getting yourself an electric screwdriver. This is one by Works that I really like. And some long shaft bits like this are super, super helpful. And so to remove the screen, what you want is one of these little suction cup dealios. They sell these in like all the $10, $5, some of them might be $5, but I got this in a $10 phone repair kit. And I don't even think I needed heat last time I did this. Just pulled it out like so. Pretty easy. It's just some double-sided tape that they have on the other side. And then you can use some canned air. I'm going to use my air compressor before I reapply it to get rid of any dust. This bit's a little bit too large for those. I'm going to go to a smaller bit. There we go. And now it comes off quite nicely. There's your little rubber button membrane over there. And we've got access to our USB port. Almost. Got to take off a couple more screws, but we're getting real close there. And yeah, nice clean design on this. Really haven't seen anything to complain about so far. They really went with a large screen too. Feels deluxe. Okay, carefully remove this guy, being careful of any ribbon cables. Yep, we got some ribbon cables, so I'm not going to pull straight out with that. I'm just going to knock out the screws, which are a little bit longer than the case screws. And it looks like we have two cables. One is going to be the TFT cable for the data lines for the display, and the other looks like it's probably the LED cable for the backlight that illuminates the display. If I had to guess. Oh no, one of them's for the camera actually. So the main board is under here. Oh, cool. Let's get a nice look at the main board. And there's a little save battery. Hey, that's cool. A little lithium save battery. I'll zoom in here so we can get a nice look. What's going on under the hood? I love this design. It's great. I love it when they do that with little daughter boards with the side solder points like that. Boy, they suck to remove though, I'll tell you that. You don't want to have to remove one of those. You probably got to get a hot plate or put it in an oven. Looks like there's a reset button. That's interesting. I don't think that's accessible from the battery compartment. Of course, that's more likely than not going to be the memory reset. This is, of course, going to be our TFT output connector. And this is going to the camera. You've got, yeah, some pretty chunky processors in here. And my guess is these two are RAM, video and SRAM of some sort. But yeah, very, very clean, very nice. The way they designed this too, it actually looks like it's going to be pretty liquid proof actually. They've designed it so it's got a lot of space too around the circuit board, and then it clamshells, you know, around the edge with just the cables, the flat flex cables. So I would venture a guess, and same with the they also clamshelled the connector for the sensor, the camera. Yeah, I would venture a guess that this is, oh, that's also a camera sensor. Oh, interesting. Okay, so you got two camera sensors. So where's the display the display cable's down here and it goes under. Yeah, it's underneath. Okay. But yeah, I would venture a guess that this is fairly waterproof, which is really nice. It's really designed. It's really good design work, in my opinion. But yeah, you can't do much about the USB ports breaking. It's just fact of life that happens. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the ribbon cables here. Now this one's going to be very delicate with these. This is the kind that are in laptops. Obviously a lot of other stuff. And this one actually flips up. I don't think is it from the top or from the back? This is the kind that's in MacBook Airs. Really, a lot of phones actually. And this is your more common type at the top. Okay. All right. Now we set this aside. I like that the camera's all enclosed too, so you can work on this thing and not have to clean out the lens or anything. And so now we've got full access to our USB port. And you know, nothing looks obviously wrong with it. It must have broken like in a very... It also just feels like part of the problem is it's recessed too far. And I almost wonder if it just needs a USB cable that it came with. that lets it recess into the port more. But regardless, it looks like it's the very, very common, it's the most common type of plug that most common type of micro USB plug that there is. I'd also like to note that they use the really good quality ones that I use that has all 4 through holes to the other side of the board. There's some other designs that have 2 or even none if they just use SMT contacts for the shell, the outer shell of it. And that's not the way to go. These ones with the 4 contacts are far more durable, and the trade-off is you lose a little bit of board space. Extremely well worth it, in my opinion, like without a doubt. And maybe they cost a few cents more. I think every manufacturer should use these always. That's our new one. And let's see if it extends far enough, though. Interesting. So our original one, actually, the one that's already in here, it sticks out quite a ways, if you can see there. Try to zoom in a little more. And see if we can get a little better lighting for you. You see that? So the contacts, if I'm lighting up the actual contacts on the circuit board, it's not going to stick out as far. And I hope that won't give me any problems. And actually, you know what? This is a different connector type. Actually, a different connector type. I have a bunch of these. I believe it's a different connector type. And by connector type, I just mean the through hole part. But let's go ahead and actually just start removing the original one. Gotta do that anyway, and see if we can get to the bottom of this. Now my workbench is still in progress, and things are not all hooked up exactly the way I'd like, but that will change shortly. I've just got so much stuff to do. Certainly improvement from my old workbench, although I do miss the familiarity of knowing where everything is. And boy, if you've ever had to redo your workbench and relearn where everything is located, it's a bit maddening. Spend a lot of time looking for something that's almost in plain sight. I'm just looking through all my USB connectors here, my parts, to see if I have any that are an exact match. And there are just so many variants out there. And I used to think, what the heck is up with that? It used to really bother me until I realized that they all have trade-offs. They all have kind of pros and cons for board space and routing underneath and such. I'm going to use my hot air gun. What's really nice about this port too is it's way off to the side, which means I don't really have to worry about board damage using the hot air gun. Famous last words, but I feel pretty confident in it. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some flux here. Get the battery away from the heat that I'm generating. Kind of a no-brainer. And I'm going to get out my tweezers here. I'm going to hit it from below too. Probably going to get some of that side of the plastic. Yeah, it looks like a little bit of the side of the plastic is going to get a little bit melty. I could take out the whole motherboard to do this. Probably the smarter way to go. But trying to get this done quickly. And we'll see. See what happens. This isn't super thermal resistant plastic. I'm also going to turn on my film extractor. Almost got you, buddy. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay. Let that suck up all the nasty fumes. And actually, I don't feel so bad now for not being able to source an exact replacement. I've never seen a USB connector just like this. This is actually a fairly unusual design type. With the really large openings that you can see all the way through. So I'm going to venture a guess that the manufacturer chose this specifically for its length. Could be wrong. For its protrusion past the edge of the board, to save on PCB cost, because you'll notice in the x-axis this is actually the widest part of the board, which is going to be determining the manufacturing cost of this PCB. So it's an interesting design consideration. I think if it were me, I would have considered another flat flex cable to another daughter board, and actually stopped this here, and just had that connector go to another USB. I don't know. It's a trade-off. But if you did that, you wouldn't be constrained by the connector as the deciding factor of your x-axis, and then you could also do drop-in repairs much more easily with just a board like that. Just drop in a new USB port on a new USB board essentially, and just plug and play. I always like it when you can repair stuff really easily like that. And I think interconnects in general are just such a primary failure point. Any user accessible interconnect is such a primary failure point. I probably shouldn't be doing any flux on this until I actually, any cleaning on this until I actually get those through holes emptied. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can do that easily. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, depending on the layers of this board. This board doesn't look like it's, I don't know, hard to say if it's a lot of layers. Also want to see if my, try to orient the camera a little better for you folks here. See if my other ports are going to line up. I think I'm going to end up having to cut away some of the plastic or something. I'm hoping I won't, but no. Actually, no, that should be fine. In fact, I'm feeling pretty good about this. This might just drop in if the... oh, no. No, it's not going to drop in. Huh. Interesting. So the other thing that's really unusual about this is the two back shield contacts back here are much, much wider than any other one I've ever seen, actually. It's pretty uncommon that they're in line with the two in the front. They usually get closer together in the back. I say this stuff because I spent, oh my god, I spent so much time doing a micro USB footprint for this really common connector in an EDA software not too long ago. It was really annoying, but sometimes you got to do it. So actually, it's kind of a bummer. It's not the end of the world, but let me see about the front contacts if they're spaced So yeah, so the front contacts are spaced just fine. It's just the back that are a little bit wider. And I think the way to go about this, as much as I would like to not do this, is to actually just cut off the back contacts and not use them. It'll still be quite durable with those front contacts and still better than no working USB port. So I think it's going to be the way to go, folks. As much as I wish I could retain these back structural supports. They're not needed, and they're not going to work anyway. Looks like they're a little bit too strong to use my just wire cutters on. So I'm going to see if I can bend them out. And actually, if I bend them out, if I really wanted to, I could even do a little... I can even expose some of the copper plane and solder them to that. It's a little trick you can do for supports like this that don't match the PCB. And in this case, though, it would only work for one side because there's actually a really large power plane, which is good. You want that. Hey, that's pretty good now. It's not going to reach the board super flush, though, until I bend those out a little further. So I'm going to go ahead and take my really nice crescent needle nose pliers here. I really like these little tiny guys. Bend these out as much as I can. See if it'll play along. But I might have to go in here. No, it's bending them. It's bending them. I'm compressing the port down just a little bit towards the back to help with that bending action. And then what I'm looking at is I'm trying to make sure the contacts for those pins under the port are flush against the board, or at least close, so that when I do apply the hot air, it will drop into place mostly without me having to go over it with my iron. But let's go ahead and see. I'm going to go ahead and reapply some flux, and I think what I'm going to do actually is preheat the board so I don't get too much on that USB connector. And again, I will say I'm cutting a corner here by not using Kapton tape on that plastic, or just removing the board entirely from the frame. So don't be like me. You really should take that extra step. But I just don't care that much, since I'm not planning on... This is not for a customer. This is for me. So I don't care if I melt the plastic a little bit. And I want to be done with this as soon as possible and get on with my day. Sometimes you cut a little corner like that. And it doesn't look like it's melting the plastic badly. Like, if it was, I would take it more seriously. But I think it's going to be okay. Probably should have applied a little fresh solder on the connector too, but whatever. All right. I'm probably gonna have to press down to get the backside connected properly, but we'll see. Or go over it with my iron. Oof, that's hot. Alright, we got something going on. But I don't think it's making those back contacts, which is okay. Yeah. This doesn't work out so great. I think what I'm going to do is try to do a suction action for this guy. Using my desoldering pump. This is the it's the model. Oh my god, it rubbed right off. I forget the model of this. This is the Japanese one you can get. It's really nice. I highly recommend it over the $6 ones, which are also nice, I gotta say, for what they cost. But if you can spare the extra 15 bucks, these are great. And I'm just holding the board in place off to the side, off camera. I'm putting one side of the iron on the contact of the PCB, the other side with the desoldering pump, and then just pressing the button after it gets hot. Nothing to it. It's a pretty thick ground plane here. I think that's why the hot air gun was giving me so much trouble. I'm trying to clear out the last plug. And you'll see now, you can see the blue, see the two holes are totally empty. So that's really what I should have done in the first place. And this should drop in nice and easy now. Not that it was like a big problem before. But let's see. Yeah, much better. Much, much better. And should put this under the microscope, take a quick look. Just make sure everything's nice and lined up here. Because you might see it's slightly crooked, and I don't know why. It's within the margin of error for sure, but I wish it wasn't slightly crooked like that. Also, I'm debating not using the hot air gun because it's still not making those contacts anyway, and you can see where I bent out those back pins. It's just not enough. I'd have to drill out those back pins, chip them off, and, you know, I could do those things, but I think it's going to work out a lot better if I simply use my soldering skills here and just go under there with my really nice soldering iron. I have a really nice RT1 pencil tip soldering iron, and I think that's going to hit those spots really nice. By the way, folks, this is why I'm not such a fan of USB-C. With USB-C, you're essentially doubling the pin density of these pins here. These are going to be, you know, double the, they'll be close together, twice as close together. I'm not using words well, but that's going to make these kind of repairs so much harder. And so, you know, obviously USB-C it's the future in a lot of ways because it's so compact and does so many things well. But I love that stuff like this, and I try to do with anything that's doesn't need to be really amazingly compact, to still stick with micro. Micro is really durable, and I like being able to get into the pins like this for these kind of repairs. Look at that. It's doing the job. Now I put a little bit of pressure on the tip, which, you know, in an ideal world you're not supposed to do, but it's just a little bit. That plane, wish I had a little more solder on that one. It's not too bad. Not too bad. If I don't have my nice big flat screen hooked up for my microscope yet, because like I said, Workbench is in progress, but it's doing good, I think. I think that's going to do me just fine. And actually, we could even test it now. Even though the camera's not connected, it should boot up, even without a battery and a camera. And I've not attached the the ground plane yet, though, which, yeah, why not? Give it a shot. Live dangerous. And always worries me when there's a little bit something like that on the screen. I hope I didn't get the screen too hot. I don't think so. And look at that. It recognized it right away. So that's good. I'm going to make sure nothing came loose when I just did that. Just checking under the microscope again. And I think we're in business. Yeah, I think we're in business. So what I'm going to do is get some nice chunky solder on as much of the shell contacts as I can. I guess I can go ahead and do this under the microscope, so you can get a view of it. Turn the microscope here a little bit, the screen. And oh, I gotta make sure I put some. I have these little pieces of silicone, like a cut up silicone mat, I can put under things when I use the microscope, because the base it's like aluminum. Or it's not aluminum, it's a harder metal than that, but I don't want to scratch stuff like the screen. So you can see here that this bent out contact is actually in really close proximity with the previous hole. So check that out. I can just do that and give it some anchoring. And I do believe I'm about 0.025 off center on this. I do believe it's well within the margin of error though, and it's not worth driving myself crazy trying to align it just perfect. And that's the thing with repairs like this, when you're doing something as simple as a USB port, and it's not for a customer, I can save a little bit of time, not driving myself crazy. If this was a vintage game system, you bet your butt I would be doing things absolutely to a T, because those are super valuable and part of a, irreplaceable, well, not irreplaceable, but part of a history. This is just a off-the-shelf camera. Not that special, but cool, worth repairing. And I'm feeling pretty good about that. I've got both of the back ones anchored to the old spots. I've hand soldered all of the pins in the bottom. You can see I've got a really good ground connection. And then I've gone ahead and, of course, applied solder to the front posts. I think one of them could use a little bit more, just a tad more. This is where I'm a little bit picky. I try to make sure that there's plenty of solder. By the way, this is also the difference between using your hands, doing hand soldering, and using an oven. You can get much more coverage hand soldering this way than you do traditionally with an oven. Make things a little more durable, which is nice. So I even put some solder on the bottom. I put a little bit of solder on the under there as well, just to anchor it like crazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean off my soldering tip and power down my really nice soldering iron, which once again, those really tiny tips save the day, which is awesome. Go ahead and I'm a little bit worried about this screen smudge. I'll make sure I didn't mess it up too much. Hopefully at all. My nice fume extractor filter is working really well. I've got the Kotto, K-O-T-T-O fume extractor system, and someone designed an actual HEPA filter for it beyond just the carbon. So it's got a carbon and HEPA combination. Gotta say, it looks like it's working great. Makes me really happy. So I'm just cleaning off the screen with a little bit of alcohol, and it looks like I'm fine. The smudging was just my fingerprint. Nothing wrong with it at all. Just great news. So feeling pretty confident about this. I may still have to sand down some of the outside plastic, because this is a slightly more recessed connector, I think. But let's go ahead and plug it in, see what happens. And looks like it's happy. Feeling pretty confident about this. I'm gonna go ahead and start putting it back in the case. Of course, you can always run into issues down the road with the repair, as far as you put it all back in the case, then you're like, oh wait, I needed that one thing. But you can't do anything about that. Sometimes you just got to put things in the case and cross your fingers, hope for the best. And I'm feeling pretty hopeful on this guy. So just putting those really delicate ribbon cables back in, especially that like a cell phone style one, which is super tiny. And getting this guy back into place. Okay, it's not going down all the way here. What's going on? What's going on? Just have to clip it up. I'm very, very delicate when I put things together and take things apart, and sometimes I actually have to use just a little more force. I hate to do that, because I treat these electronics as very, very fragile, especially when their cases are off. One thing I will say about this works drill, very minor criticism, I wish you could lower the torque even more. This is the lowest torque setting, and as you can tell, it's still a bit much for really delicate stuff like this. Not the end of the world. I don't think I've stripped any screws or anything so far. I haven't had any major problems with it, but I am a big fan of precision control with these sort of things, and it doesn't really it doesn't really add any major expense to do it like that. You know, you just do one more setting in the firmware, right? It's not like you have to add even an extra button or anything. So I'm always like, why did you guys do that? Really just want to make it to four button presses? You couldn't make it 5 or 6? Oh, I'm sorry, it's only 3 button presses. Always seems a little bit silly to me. And you could just dim the LED, right? There's 3 button presses. I'm just going off on a rant tangent here. 3 button presses, right? 1, 2, 3. But you could dim the LED to give it more precision. Anyway, old man yelling at clouds here. Would have been nice. Still a great piece of kit. And you'll see there's actually some gaps here, so you can see the light through the sides. I don't know if you can make it out on camera. You see the blue there. So actually, I take back my previous statement about this being kind of waterproof. It's not really. It's not really, but it's probably not intended to be. It is durable though, and still stand by my recommendation as a nice piece of kit. This is a very, very common kind of repair that's needed for all sorts of electronics. I hold none of it against the design. There's no design flaw that I can tell. It's just very easy to knock a USB port and mess things up. I also like that when you put on this outer shell, you don't have to mess with the screen cover yet, so you still have time to dust off the screen. And that makes life easier. Go ahead and see what happens now that I've got the case on, and see if this port is too recessed or not. Or if it even lines up appropriately with our shell here. Yeah, might be too recessed like I was thinking. In which case I'll just have to Dremel out the case a little bit. It's not ideal. It's not going to look stock once I do that. But, or I could actually just drill out my plastic around my USB plug and just have like a specific USB charger cable for this. I don't think either are ideal. So yeah, actually, you know, if I really push it in, it's kind of works. I don't know. And it could be that that was actually much of the original problem, but if you look, it's just so recessed in there. And I think the reason they might have done this is they didn't want to. They just wanted this shell to slide on top like so. But I mean, look at that gap. That's huge for a USB port. That's really big gap. So yeah, you're gonna need a USB plug that has, you know, not a lot of plastic near the top to reach in there far enough, which is annoying, no doubt. Let me see if I have. But what else can I say? I'm going to use my air compressor and blow this out, put the new screen back on. I'm not even going to apply new adhesive. I don't think it needs it. Put all the screws back on, battery back in place. You know, reverse steps. Nothing too... I don't need to do that on camera. I think you all know the deal. I'm going to count this as fixed, though. I am going to see about just sanding down a USB cable to fit in a little better. And I'm not going to worry about it too much. I think because this is not the cheapest product, I'd like to not be sanding down the side. But I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it. If I go in here with a rotary tool and just kind of sand that out. Because what is it? Is it the thing is though, is it's actually the distance of the entire. Well, let me think for a second. Let's see. It's actually just the top part here. If you can see that, it's actually the issue is the route, which is not, the plastic isn't actually routed, right? It's injection molded probably, but if you think of it in routing terms, it's the route, the inlay route here is too narrow. It's way too narrow. And so if that inlay route was widened just at the top here, I think we'd be in business, actually. I think that would do it. And in fact, that I am willing to do to the case here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do that really quick on camera, since I imagine folks might benefit from seeing that. And to do that, I'm just going to use a small routing bit that comes with my, again, I'm such a Works fanboy now, my little Works routery tool. Love this thing. I have an even smaller one too that might even be better for this job, but it's not a terrible difficulty. I think this will work out. So I'm gonna go in here. And all I'm trying to do is cut away some of this material. It sticks out. And, you know, ideally I should be using goggles for that. Forgot to do that, but it's really small. I'm not using high RPM or anything, so it's pretty low risk, I think, of any kind of optical damage. And this plastic comes off pretty easily, so that's nice. Go ahead and see how much of this I can chip off. I also don't need the fume extractor anymore. This is coming out pretty nice. I'd love it if I could do it clean enough that it's hard to tell that it's been altered at all. That'd be cool. I always try to do that. I think of repairs like this. You try to be a ninja as much as you can. Ninja Gaiden. see how that works.